Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet Sky FF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
50 big ones, James. You're rocking and rolling and on your way. So before we get into the pod, I'm sure it's episode 1, 2, 3 of this season, something that you said I get 20% of your winnings. You said it, and you're going to win it.
Yeah, and you can have it, mate. You're going to pay me more than that anyway.
Oh dear, it is looking good for you. Good week for you. Not so good for me for various reasons that we're going to get into. And let's timestamp the podcast Wednesday morning. We still don't know about the December fixtures. We literally are blind. We have 1 week's worth of fixtures and nothing else beyond.
We are not quite blind. There are some games and some fixtures that we can conclude and know of what's coming next. But yes, essentially, we all need some sort of announcement for this Friday. Even for people making a decision of what to do Friday night and then what afterwards. With, say, Palace assets, if you're sitting there on a Gator or a PVA, we need some information Friday. I assume we're going to get it, but I guess there's a possibility that we won't. And obviously delayed by possibly the announcement of obviously fans coming back to grounds. Is that going to have an impact on the announcement? I would be amazed if we don't know by Friday late afternoon what's happening with the fixtures. Yeah. What would be brilliant is if they come out at like, I don't know, 7:45 on Friday night or something. It wouldn't be that late.
You can burn the midnight oil and get a steal on what your strategy might be for people. Let's run down our game weeks. James, how did you do? A monster week for you?
It was a very good week. Sometimes in this game, I've spoken a lot about obviously sticking with templates, absolutely fine. Sometimes you have to make a decision by yourself that no one else likes. When you make that decision, it has to pay. Now, for me, it didn't need to pay straight away because it was a longer-term thought process on particularly Joel Matip. But nobody said to me, James, I like that move. Everybody was a bit like, are you fucking mad with Liverpool defensively at the moment? It wasn't just getting Matip, it was adding Matip to Robertson as well, right? So it was a big gamble. That obviously paid off really nicely for me on Sunday night against Leicester, when I know a lot of other people might have been exiting Tottenham to look at people like Jamie Vardy, etc. So I got a steal over that. I've had Bruno captain Saturday, Calvert-Lewin captain Sunday, and actually even Gator, 4-pointer on Monday, will have outscored quite a few people. So finished on 120 for the game week, which is a rank for the game week of 598th. It shot me right up to basically 2,700. And I can see what's in front of me.
And what's your total points now, James? You're going to be 830 odd?
826.
826. So you are exactly 60, just under 60 points ahead of me, which is 50 points is what you made up on me this week by ultimately having Dominic Calvert-Lewin as captain, and the move to Matip makes up the vast majority of those points, the rest being made up by Son. I ended up on 73 points this week, which isn't great, but it's actually also not disastrous. I mean, there was a game week rank of 80k, but it leaves me at 12k overall. Having said that, I only used one transfer. I ended up in a bit of a fix, let's call it, where on the Sunday morning, obviously Lamptey had got himself sent off, so I know he's bound. So I have to deal with my Lamptey problem. But I didn't want to turn it into a 2 transfer problem, or I didn't know what I was going to do to make it a 2 transfer situation where I was going to get a gain. So I thought I'd leave it in the hope that this week we would get some fixtures, and then what I do with Lamptey becomes a longer term strategy rather than jump on, jump off, because I didn't have any other strategy. The likes of Sterling, I don't want to sell. I had Bruno captain on Saturday, Robertson captain on Sunday, which was fine. So the Lamptey problem became a sticking point for me, which was then exacerbated by Zaha not being in the starting lineup. And then not having a double move with Lamptey. I couldn't go directly from Lamptey to any other Crystal Palace defender. But I still wanted to give myself the captaincy coverage for Monday and Friday. One looked at PVA, but didn't really want to move from Zaha directly to PVA. So it ended up moving Zaha to Eze, which hasn't worked out yet, but there's still one more fixture on Friday to work out. My hope is now that by Friday, we get the fixtures, and then I can use my transfers with a longer term mindset and strategy in mind. I'm not disheartened so much at 12K, but
Shouldn't be.
But
Shouldn't be.
I'm stuck a little bit here in that I'm not making moves because I'm stalling on finding out the fixture strategy. And I feel like Lamptey at such a cheap price at 6 million, there's literally nowhere else to go at that price point. The best I could see was Sufal at 6.1 million, who's in the same price bracket. There's very little in that price bracket. So we talked in the previous show about getting rid of Lamptey and then finding yourself where the cheapest player was Dallas and having a few at 8.3. Like you've bought a Matip at 8.3, who's a very good price. And then you only need to have one cheapie, and that can be Dallas, and you're fine with that. I need to maneuver my situation with that in mind at the moment.
So on Lamptey, I don't know what his ownership is, Suj. Can you just have a quick look? 'Cause it's not massive, so I don't want to talk about him in too much detail.
11.3 in the top 1K, but only 5% overall, and it's only a one-match ban.
I'm only interested in that 5% at the moment, to be honest, rather than what's in the top 1K. Yeah. So only 1 in 20 of our listeners has probably got him, perhaps a little bit more.
Yeah, and the game he misses is Liverpool.
Well, this is the thing. So what I decided on Saturday night, I knew I wasn't making any moves for the Saturday. What I decided Saturday night, and I slept on this, was the idea of going from Son to Matip and Lamptey to Bamford. And I changed my mind in the morning not to buy Bamford, and then changed my mind again and decided to pull the trigger. And I'm really pleased that I did. What actually put my doubt in my mind on Lamptey was two things. One, I didn't actually care that he was going to miss the Liverpool game, because I don't see any points in that anyway. And, you know, if Liverpool went there and got 3 or 4, he could easily be on minus points anyway. So I wasn't bothered that he was going to miss that fixture. If you're going to have a player suspended that's defensive, Liverpool is not a bad fixture to be missing. So it actually cast a little bit doubt in terms of whether I wanted to get rid. The other bit of doubt in my mind was the possibility that Brighton-Southampton in match week 11 is one of the fixtures that could be a Friday. What I decided and the conclusion I came to was, if that's the worst case scenario, that's what we find out in the next 48 hours or so, that I will go Gator most likely to McCarthy, because Southampton have Brighton, and then Sheffield United is another one that could land on a Friday. So I was very conscious about Southampton. It kind of became a call of, was I going to go Bamford Sunday morning, or was I going to go Che Adams on the Monday? Now, obviously, if I'd gone Che Adams, I'd actually be slightly up on points at the moment. But the thing with Bamford that really appeals to me is a little bit like what I said last week. Because everyone's got something Leeds defensive, generally, I know most people are not looking at him. He is having monster amounts of efforts on goal every week. And do you know what? A lot of them's getting missed. But this isn't FPL, so I don't have to worry about his shit BPS. Course, I want him to hit the target. He's walked away with 4 points in that fixture against Arsenal at the weekend, because he had that by half-time. And he's hit the post late in the game as well. Suddenly, I was very close to a 10-pointer. And with Leeds, I'm not worried about fixtures. They will create chances. They will go for it no matter what. We knew this in pre-season. They don't give a shit. They will play the same way against everybody, just that the system might be a little bit different. So I've now suddenly got Bamford and Matip in, and I've moved away from everybody else's template. These two have become really important for me because they're my differentials. Now, if the fixture swings in a certain way that I don't like, generally, I might go Bamford to Adams this Sunday to get that Southampton coverage, if that's something I feel like I need. But I really wanted to go Leeds or West Ham on Sunday, because that was the only one I could foresee as that's my immediate gain on Tottenham, was going to be Leeds or West Ham. I discussed this last Wednesday. And the uncertainty about Antonio just meant I couldn't go there. Plus, even if I did go that way, it's like they're not playing till Monday anyway, so it's a massive gap. Whereas Bamford allowed me what I've just said. Sunday, Saturday, if I don't like it, I can go Adams again and move. And that's why I decided to go for Patrick Bamford.
Would you say it's fair to say that Heung-min Son's had a great season so far?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, Bamford is only 5 Sky points behind Heung-min Son.
But that's what I'm talking about. No one's talking about Bamford. If those Leeds guys weren't there,
but you are now, James. You're about to change the template.
I spoke about him. I ain't
him.
changing anybody's template because I'm telling you that most people who are sitting there with a Leeds defender are not going to buy a Patrick Bamford, and I'm not suggesting that anybody does. I've taken a gamble on. Let's be honest. I've now got 2 players from a side that's going to finish in the bottom half of this league, but they both could be very good value Sky assets. And like I said as well, he now enables what you covered off shortly a little while ago, was having like Bamford and Matip in there at the 8 value now means I can get Lamptey out of there. Yeah. And I don't think over this Christmas period I'm going to need him. Now, if that Brighton-Southampton game lands on a Friday, it's a little bit disappointing, but I'd actually rather get the entry point onto Southampton now. That's why I want, if Southampton and Brighton's a Friday, I'll almost certainly go Gator to McCarthy. They're the same price on Sunday and forget about it.
Right, yeah. So obviously we are waiting with bated breath on these transfers, on these fixtures, to figure out what we want to do. Have you preset your bus captains so far, James?
Of course, sir. Yes, I have.
So for the Friday night, who do you have this coming game week?
I have the magnificent Vicente Gator, who I was quite grateful for his 4-pointer on Monday night. I don't mind that at all. If he can get a clean sheet on Friday night, it's job done. If Newcastle are missing Callum Wilson, then I fancy that as quite a strong possibility, actually. But the idea, of course, is to move him on, subject to when the West Brom fixture lands. If the West Brom fixture doesn't land on the Friday night, I'm looking to find an avenue to move him on possibly this week. It literally depends where I want to go to and obviously the way those fixtures land. If I am completely blind on it and don't know, I genuinely might still buy McCarthy on Sunday because I think that's the one I'm possibly going to need coverage for next. And do you know what? I might have to take a chance and guess it.
Yep.
Saturday.
I'm on Eze on Friday night. Not that it matters, but yeah, I'm in a situation where he's my only player and he'll do. You know, if he pops up with any sort of return, I'll take it and run because he's getting sold straight away on Saturday morning.
Do you know what you want to do with that?
Fixture dependent, James. I don't actually mind your shout at Bamford because Bamford's playing on the Saturday. I've also got enough money to turn it into Antonio, but that would mean holding until Monday's fixture. And I don't need the captaincy coverage on Monday because I have Grealish. So possibly, if it's a longer term game plan, Bamford, you talked about Southampton coverage, which I don't have. Stuart Armstrong's at a cheap price in Sky. I think he's 7.1 million off memory.
Yeah, so, cheap. Decent shout.
He might go Eze to Stuart Armstrong and get that coverage to tick me over for 3 or 4 weeks, potentially, is the alternative I've got in mind.
Yeah, I don't think Eze was a particularly good choice, mate. I think he would have been better for going PVA. Although I thought he played all right. And he might take that mantle on again if we assume that Zaha probably is going to be.
Yeah, look, I did have a cheeky look at it and say, look, in the games that he started, and there's only been 2, he didn't pick up any tiering points whatsoever. However, against Leeds, he completely cleaned up. So I've got 2 stabs at the cherry here with Burnley and Newcastle. We saw Newcastle are not great against Chelsea. So let's see. If it comes in, great. If it doesn't, it's one that I'll just have to not dwell on and move on.
What system are you playing at the moment?
4-4-2.
So you can, I presume you went Zaha to Eze, didn't you? So you
correct.
You can go to Diaz.
Not in one move. Don't have enough money to
that's a shame.
Ruben Diaz is definitely on my radar.
That's the player I obviously want. And to be honest, the way the fixtures land, if there's no opening of the door for Manchester City, I might go Kane to Diaz on Sunday. Yep. What scares me a little bit about that is I don't then want to move any of the back 5 and I might really restrict myself. And then, of course, once you're stuck with 5-3-2, I can't move De Bruyne or Fernandes into a Salah area or something. I would have to move something again defensively, which I'm not sure I'm going to want to do. So, but I am obviously looking for that entry point for Ruben Diaz. I'm aware, obviously, a lot of people have got him. He's the differential for them versus my Joel Matip. And to be honest, those on Diaz are on a better position than myself. Although I think City and Liverpool both defensively are going to do really well over the next 5 to 6 weeks or so.
The Saturday is fairly tricky in that Liverpool are obviously playing. and Manchester City are playing. And then people that have some outside candidates like Dominic Calvert-Lewin, maybe who could get chances against Leeds, might be fancying him. But who do you have it bust on at the moment for the Saturday?
I'll be going Kevin De Bruyne. Yeah. Not happy with what they're doing at the moment, but obviously De Bruyne is not in the squad playing Olympiacos in the Champions League this evening. It's believed that him and Kyle Walker have been rested. There's no issue. It's just give them a rest. De Bruyne spoke after the game against Tottenham on Saturday about being tired. He was asked directly, do you feel tired? And he said sometimes. So that City are going to piss through that Champions League group. So I spoke about this in the past about City prioritising these league games. They can't afford to get any more adrift. And they've suffered before without De Bruyne in these fixtures. So I'm 95% sure that Kevin De Bruyne will start against Burnley. And that's enough with the ownership and stuff to think, yes. Calvert-Lewin's a great little alternative. I think those who have still got Salah, if he's in the team Saturday, are going to be compelled to think, I got Mohamed Salah against a team that's quite open and has lost home games by sizable scores since the original restart period. I think they've conceded 3 or more every time they've played a Big Six team at home. I think there's 5 or so games in there as well. So those who've still got Salah, I think, will end up sticking the armband on him Saturday. De Bruyne will be the fullback for many others. I think Calvert-Lewin is a very good alternative. So there might be a bit more of a split Saturday than usual. But I'm highly likely to go De Bruyne. I must add on him that I am considering ways of moving him on, which seems ridiculous with the fixtures that he's got at the moment. But I just feel like if I want those passing tiers defensively, which I've now kind of really leaned in towards, making sure I've got enough funds in the forward line makes moving De Bruyne probably the one, remarkably. What it needs at the moment really is for me to get Antonio fit, because Antonio for De Bruyne allows, that's moving £3.5 million to do what I want with a more powerful front line. Got to bear in mind, I'm sitting there with Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Bamford at the moment, which is fine. But at points, I'm going to want to move that around. Now, I'm restricted.
Salah for certain fixtures like
correct.
Fulham,
now, of course, I can. Kane and Salah, I'm in at the value. Calvert-Lewin's in at some other people's value. And Bamford's in and around sort of Adams, Ollie Watkins, Morpays if something turns up for them, which I quite like that little split. But at times, there's points where I'm going to want a front three or something like Kane, Salah, Werner. Aubameyang's got an interesting run coming. I know that sounds ridiculous at the moment, but we know now basically that Arsenal are going to play Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday between match weeks 12 and 14. And Aubameyang is going to have a 3-1 on some of these guys. And Burnley and Southampton at home are not the worst fixtures in that run. So I'm
basically
conscious of these little
too many
things
names
further ahead.
There are so many permutations and combinations.
Well, that's the point. But it's De Bruyne is the one that might be expendable, unbelievably.
Yeah, but this is Sky, so you can dip on and dip back on, and you're not going to have to worry about value here. I own a certain young man that you have not mentioned once, and I'm not. Every now and then, you've got to go against the high ownership for a bit of a gain. And Raheem Sterling as a captain on Saturday is very much in my thoughts.
I think it's fine, mate. It's you know the risk, but
of course, KDB is KDB. I'm not sure. I'm probably about 50-50 on whether or not I fancy it. And I'll have a look on the day. If Raheem scores, if he plays and scores against Olympiacos, then I think I might fancy him to be back in contention. And obviously we'll see if Aguero gets any minutes or Jesus or whatever. I quite fancy it. I've kept him this long. It might be the time to get some returns back off him. On the Sunday, is there any doubt that anyone's going other than Bruno Fernandes?
Well, I think plenty will go Harry Kane. But yeah, I'll be going Bruno for sure away to Southampton. I spoke on the FPL pods that I really like this fixture in any case anyway. So yeah, no doubt for me, Bruno.
Yeah, for me, it's Bruno Fernandes as well. And on the Monday night, I'm assuming you own Jack Grealish. Are you thinking Grealish is the one to go to?
Jack Grealish, but obviously very, very conscious of Leicester. And if there's one team I could probably get a fixture from right now, I would like to know when they're playing Sheffield United away in match week 11, because it might determine whether I go on or not. Essentially, at the moment, my only entry point into Vardy is Harry Kane.
I was going to say Harry
which could
Kane
be
would have to
okay.
be sacrificed. Yeah.
What I don't want to do is particularly, if Sheffield United and Leicester lands on the Monday and Tottenham and Arsenal is on the Sunday, I don't really want to sell Kane unless it landed that Liverpool and Fulham is on that Sunday. But then I'm possibly going to want Salah to cover that as well. So I need to be a little bit cautious of what I'm doing. I would like to get a Leicester player. What I don't want to do, and what I suspect I might even end up doing, is going Dallas to Fofana, just to cover it off, possibly. We've got a decent run of fixtures. Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton, and then Everton leans into the idea of potential clean sheets. And then actually looking ahead of the next four, it's Tottenham, Manchester United, but then Palace and Newcastle takes us up to January 2nd. Those are another two good defensive fixtures. So Fofana might be an interesting alternative. The other problem with that is Ricardo Pereira played on Monday in an under-23 game, and he's the one I'd like to power in. But then I can't have all them fucking defenders. It's just not possible. But yeah, I'd love to have a backline of Pereira, Robertson, Matip, Gabriel, and Diaz, and then I probably am locking into 5-3-2 by jumping on and off forwards potentially. Yeah. If Pereira was remarkably in the team, because we'll know it as it's the 5:30 game, I might look at it. I genuinely might look at it. And I think those who've got Harvey Barnes is a good alternative as well. There's been plenty who still own Harvey Barnes.
Do you think that would rule out for you the possibility of going to Ruben Diaz, or would you then be happy to sacrifice Matip or Gabriel to get to Ruben Diaz?
I'd probably be sacrificing Robertson.
And that does free you up a little bit of money if you were to make that particular sacrifice.
It would probably have to be. But I want an entry point on Manchester City. I know that, to be honest, 80% they'll keep a clean sheet against Burnley, and if he plays, he's hitting 10 pointers at the weekend. I know that, and I potentially want some of it. If City end up playing Saturday, the next 3 Saturdays, the next 4 weekend Saturdays. So match week 13 is a midweek fixtures, but we know match week 10 Saturday, 11 will be Sunday or Monday, 12 will be Saturday. 11 will be Saturday or Sunday, 12 will be Saturday or Sunday, 14 will definitely be Saturday. You know that when they play away to Southampton in match week 14, it's going to be a Saturday. So if they keep landing on Saturdays, I need to pull the trigger on that at some point, and it might be that I would go Kane to Diaz this Saturday, and then I can go like Robertson to Vardy on Monday, something like that.
Yeah. We will see. I know we've got a few questions that have come in on Twitter, James. I think a lot of them are going to be caveated around these fixtures, but let's go through them anyway, and I'm sure that we will be able to shed a little bit of advice as best we can. Let's start with Ron at Mint Sky FF. For those still sitting with Wilfred Zaha, is it a case of only bringing someone in for Friday if Palace versus West Brom is announced as a single match day? If not, skip Palace versus Newcastle?
Yeah, for me, if you're not on now, it's a no, unless, like you've just said, the Palace West Brom game lands on the Friday and you know that it's landing there. It's worth saying, just of interest, I'm not recommending it, but Villa Newcastle was one of the other 3 games that could also land on the Friday in match week 11.
Newcastle is what you're thinking there.
The thing is with that though, I mean, Newcastle obviously could cover your captaincy against Palace. You wouldn't obviously captain that Newcastle player against Villa as long as you've got Grealish or Martinez, for example. And I think most people will have something Aston Villa at the moment, it feels like. I mean, the majority of people are probably on Jack Grealish that are listening to this. So that could be an alternative, but I think you would have to know that one of them's playing on the Friday as well, the following week, to feel like the game's worthwhile. Otherwise, this is a skippable game. It's just a standalone Palace v Newcastle captaincy. What do you want to do with it? It's a skip.
Yeah. So if people still have Zaha kicking around in their squads, and we find out before Friday that the West Brom game is not a single match day, then you just move him on basically and get it done.
But I wouldn't get another coverage from that game.
No.
I would move to something on the Saturday or the Sunday. Yeah. Although, of course, if you think Zaha is a longer term hold and then West Brom's his next fixture, you might just decide just to leave it, and that might not be the worst thing.
No. Michael Smith says that now that Salah is available for selection for Atalanta tonight, do you plan to bring him in, and how? as there is, or is there enough adequate captaincy cover with Bruno and KDB this weekend, and should we focus our attention on Vardy? I'm not ready for Salah yet, but because I've got Sterling and Kane in my front line, to get to Salah isn't particularly difficult. I'm looking more around about game week. It's 14 when they've got Fulham, isn't it, for Liverpool? So I'm looking a little bit further ahead. I'll probably be without for a few weeks. I don't mind skipping the Wolves fixture, and then I'll be looking at Salah.
It depends where these fixtures fall. What I want with Liverpool is the Wolves or Fulham fixtures land on a Sunday. That's what I want, ideally. I think the security of De Bruyne, being pretty confident he play, and even if, I don't know, Guardiola said on Friday he's out, I'd be quite happy to go Calvert-Lewin against Leeds. I wouldn't have a problem with that. So I'm not desperate to force it in on the Saturday with no game, knowing that if I go to Saturday and then Wolves has been moved to the Sunday, then I've got plenty of two games from other people in between.
Yep.
To be honest, ideally it's the Fulham game on the Sunday. He's probably the one that I'm looking for. Give me a bit more space and time to work on a plan, because I'm not actually desperate to get him in for that Wolves fixture, depending on the way the fixtures. I mean, would you want to go, for example, Salah against Wolves or Kane against Arsenal? If that's the way it fell.
Kane against Arsenal.
To be honest, it's not the one where I want to be making the transfer anyway. I'd probably just go Harry against Arsenal.
Yeah.
So it's probably for me looking for the Fulham game. The flip of that is if Fulham lands on the Sunday, it's obvious for everybody else. And I realise there's a lot of guys out there obviously still kept hold of him. Although, I don't know if you've got him in front of you, Suj, his ownership has taken one hell of a whack.
Mohamed Salah?
I think he's lost about 17% owners since the last week or so. So, I mean, it's a great time to get on him. You're not going to get his ownership as low as it is at the moment. It's gone to about 20%.
Yeah, 21% at the moment is Mo Salah.
So that's tempting to know that you could really get a march if you get him in. So if someone says that you've seen the team, he's in the team, you want to get him in and captain him, I'm not going to say don't do that. It's probably not for me unless I pick up an injury somewhere else in my squad between now and Saturday morning, which, yeah, listen, it's always possible at the moment.
Plan in Skisoko says...
Plan in Sissoko?
Plan in Skisoko.
Musa Sissoko. Mate. Sunday captain Musa.
I should just say, we have a question in, James, from a user on Twitter. Who can match Vardy in the next 3 game weeks?
It's not really a case of that, though, is it?
No.
Because there's others you might... I mean, for example, by the time Leicester play Brighton, which we know will be a Sunday in match week 12, which is the third of Leicester's fixtures, Kane might have only played in between Vardy's first and last. Kane might only played once, which is against Arsenal. So in which case, I'm going, yeah, of course, Vardy will outscore him over that 3-for-1, for example. Who will outscore him over the next 3 game weeks? I mean, just about anybody from Manchester City could do it in the next 2 if they get their act together, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
There's lots of people. It's a good 3 fixtures on paper. I'm not convinced by that Sheffield United away game, but if it landed on the Monday, you're still going to stick the armband on him or something, I think. Brighton on the Sunday, interestingly, depending on the way the others fall in match week 12, he might be the best shout. It's what I said about Arsenal, because Arsenal play home to Burnley that day as well.
Yep.
So what would you fancy? Leicester home to Brighton or Arsenal home to Burnley?
Leicester at home to Brighton.
I agree. But then you might make a case that Aubameyang's 2 afterwards, which you'll get the 3-for-1 on, will probably be better than Vardy's, because there's a good chance that Vardy won't play till the Sunday in match week 14. So these are little things we don't know till we get there. So Vardy might even prove to be a hold longer than those 3 games, potentially, the way it falls. As already said, they got Palace, Newcastle over the Christmas period. It's Everton, Tottenham, Man United in the middle, which, depending on the way they fall, could be jump on or off. The Everton fixture is definitely going to be a Wednesday on that midweek. It could be there's escape on the Thursday if there's Thursday fixtures that week. Yes, of course, Jamie Vardy could do as well as anybody over the next 3 games. It will be a nervous one if I don't get him Monday, because targeting players for Fulham just feels right and obvious. Just experienced captaining DCL against them myself. We thought after playing you that they might have improved a bit defensively, but They give the ball away in high areas. Defensively, Anderson looked bad at the weekend, and he's the one who's essentially, it's on him to shore it up. He had a really nervous first 45 minutes. So targeting Fulham's a great idea. When you've got Leicester playing them on the Monday, you'll know the team. It does feel right. I do want an entry point into Leicester at some point.
Yeah. Let's look at a question in about Palace. PVA or Palace players, exit points, or are they a hold for now? I think you could make a case for leaving after this Friday, surely.
Yeah. So anybody but Newcastle, basically.
Yeah.
There's quite a few. What you got to obviously consider is price value. So let's assume most people haven't got the money sitting in the bank. Leicester obviously won, so you can wait that till Monday. You know, if you Gator, Kasper Schmeichel might be an alternative shout. Maybe even we don't talk about him. Although I think there were some good outfield prospects from Leicester. Southampton, as I mentioned, Sunday could have some nice gains on that. Potentially, it might give you some coverage of a bad Friday that might arrive in the next couple of weeks. But essentially, anybody, as long as you can afford it.
FPL Dempsey says, with Lamptey injured and no Liverpool coverage, is the timing right for a straight swap to Robbo, or would it be better to save the funds to move Che Adams onto Salah? So if you had the choice of Lamptey to Robbo or Che Adams to Salah, which would you do?
Lamptey to Matip.
I think, and save the money and maybe try and find a way to chop
I think
it up.
look, if you've got that money sitting there, then that feels like a one potentially. But like I said, Che Adams, that might come back around. You want it. So genuinely, my answer would be Lamptey to Matip.
We have a question in from Glenn Roy. If you knew,
but then you should have done it last Sunday.
Yeah. Glenn Roy, this question starts with the biggest hypothetical in the history of football. If you knew Aguero was going to start the next 4 fixtures, I think that statement just negates any question, because it's just no, isn't it? If you knew Aguero was going to start the next 4 fixtures, would you put him in your team?
100%. Yeah, of course. But Fulham in that second fixture as well. I'm not that bothered. I spoke about this on the FPL pods. I don't feel like I have to steam into City for this Burnley game. If the Fulham game then lands on a Sunday, it's a brilliant opening to do things with Manchester City. And it might be by then that Kane to Aguero, for example, looks absolutely brilliant. It might even be that by that point, the way the fixtures fall, Vardy to Aguero, whomever. De Bruyne might be injured. Maneuver De Bruyne to Aguero. If say City v Fulham is 12 o'clock on a Sunday and Aguero is in the team, that's the sort of one where I feel like I'm going to go and break some rules and potentially go and buy him in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you would want, if you knew Aguero was going to play the 4 games, even to let him build his fitness. Yeah.
Talon Nadeem says he has Harvey Barnes as Leicester coverage, but doesn't feel that he's the ideal captain for Monday and won't cover Vardy in the coming run either. Is it worth using a transfer to go Harvey Barnes to Jamie Vardy, or double up on Leicester by selling Kane for Vardy on the Monday?
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, particularly, like I said, if that Leicester-Sheffield United game lands on the Sunday and either Tottenham's game against Arsenal or Tottenham's game against Crystal Palace the week after land on Monday, then, yeah, it looks you could definitely go to double. Would I go Barnes to Vardy? No, I would just leave that. It's
Chris
fine.
Hermitage says he's in the same boat as you, James. He's beginning to have enough of Gator. I know most say keepers aren't worth transfers, but would you move off him? Mendy for 0.4 more seems a better set and forget, or maybe even Flapianski or Martinez.
Martinez is the obvious one because of longer stretch of nice fixtures, basically up till Boxing Day. But I don't need the cover there because of obviously Jack Grealish. Unless I decide to move Jack Grealish on, which, should I hear that Ross Barkley's out for 3 months or so, I genuinely might look at avenues to do that. Mm-hmm. It would need Ross Barkley to be out for a really long time, I think, for me to consider that. McCarthy's another one, as I said. Mendy, yes. Although
7 million is a very good price for him.
Of course it is, absolutely. But I'm still absolutely convinced that I'm not going to want any Chelsea captaincy coverage till 2021. I'm convinced of that.
Which means you can wait out until the next overhaul.
And therefore, would I rather go McCarthy, who gives me, he might end up giving me captaincy coverage for 4 games potentially that I might need for the remainder of this year, which is Brighton match week 11, Sheffield United match week 12, Fulham in 15, and West Ham in 16. And that's part of the reason why I ended up going Gator in the first place. Looking at the fixtures longer term, which goalkeeper is going to give me the most coverage of shit games? Because I don't mind if Vicente Gator pulls me out an 11-pointer on Friday night and gets me 22 points. He's almost been worth having from the start, honestly. Yes. This is what it was for. And it's the same with that. If McCarthy does me shag all against Manchester United on Sunday, but I need him the Friday night against Brighton, and he gets me a 9-pointer there and doubles that to 18, that's what I want. And that's kind of really what I want to be using my goalkeeper for, is covering the most amount of problems. So I think McCarthy might be the one I end up leaning into. Mendy's a really good shout. I mean, the flip of that is Chelsea obviously look really good defensively at the moment. He's brought in serious consistency to what they're doing. He's a decent price at 7 million. He's probably 0.1 million more than what I'd want to pay for a goalkeeper. But I can get there. I have Gator at 6.6 million and Mendy 7 million. I got 0.4 in the bank, and I am aware of that. So I want the fixtures. I want the fixtures to be able to map it out all of December and January, and then go from there. And if I don't need those coverages from the likes of Southampton or something similar, then I probably will go to Mendy.
Dan McKenna, this is a very straightforward one. I own Zaha, but no other Friday night coverage. I've still got 36 transfers. I feel like I can blow one to get some coverage, but is it a waste, assuming he's still out? Well, we know it's COVID, so the likelihood, yes, he is still out. 36 transfers is a lot. So feel free to use some of those transfers. It's all right to start using 2 or 3. But for Friday night's game, unless you know that the move you're going to make, say to Newcastle or Palace have another single game day, is not worth it. If you knew that Newcastle or Palace gave you coverage for another single game day in the next couple of weeks, then maybe consider it. But if you don't, and there isn't, then bin it off.
There isn't going to be anything else you want Palace for. Newcastle, oddly enough, there might be. They could also have Friday night against West Brom in match week 12 as well. If you know it, then do you want to carry through Crystal Palace, Villa, West Brom? With 2 captaincies, you might think that's worth it possibly. So don't rule that out. What I'd say about Newcastle is they're all shit. None of them are going to get you any passing tiers.
So maybe Carl Darlow might be, but then you don't want to move your keeper.
Yeah, you just want to know that if Dubravka's definitely out for the 3 games, that would be the one. Yeah, Darlow, I would say. But generally speaking, no, miss it. They play Fulham in match week 14, which we know almost with certainty is going to be a Saturday. So you won't need to cover that one.
Just a couple more questions. As our regular contributor, Ian Parron's got a question here and raises something that I wanted to talk about when we were talking about fixtures, but we glossed over and didn't. This possibility that fans might be getting inside stadiums now, James. So Ian asked, with the government suggesting the possibility of some fans soon being allowed into grounds, how do you think that will affect fixtures? And he's put a 2-parter here. How many game weeks will be announced at a time and how far in advance? Surely you'd think that if we're allowed fans in, it might be longer term. But will games have more fan-friendly kickoffs, so not in all unique slots? Now, the thing with the fans being allowed in stadiums, James, is it's dependent location by location based on the tier. And these tiers are being reviewed every 14 days. So you could easily have a home fixture 4 weeks from now where we're currently in tier 1 and you're like, crack on, 4,000 fans are going to be allowed in. It gets changed in 2 weeks because there's a spike and suddenly fans are not allowed in because we jump from tier 1 to tier 2 or tier 2 to tier 3 or whatever it may be. So I'm not sure how much it is going to help. I think it's going to be a case of provisionally we are going to allow fans in that could change at a moment's notice. But from a scheduling point of view, they will have to start thinking a little bit longer term. And then will games have more fan-friendly kickoffs? Well, I think this Monday and Friday, 5:30, 6:30 bullshit will disappear because they're not having matches at that time, are they?
It depends where they are. So what we think at the moment is that Brighton and Southampton are the only ones that are going to fall into tier 1, which would allow 4,000 fans. Also makes me very conscious that Brighton Southampton is the first one. 5:30 on a Friday. I'm just saying, makes me a little bit conscious of that. But for example, even 2,000 fans going to Tottenham, it is not going to be 5:30 on a Monday or a Friday. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah,
because of transport in London. The same will apply to Fulham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, all of them. It ain't going to be 5:30 on a Friday or Monday. Doesn't mean it won't be 8 o'clock on one of those days, by the way. But I think generally speaking, the Premier League has said December, January, we're going to get a schedule together. We're going to announce it. I'm not convinced that we're going to get it all in one go, but I wouldn't be surprised if we did get everything up till, I don't know, match week 21. I say match week as in Premier League game week.
Yep.
We could get something in a big smash like that. I suspect what we're probably going to get is 2 weeks worth, roughly, probably in the next couple of days, and then the rest in another week or two, up till December, January. In terms of fans getting back into grounds, it's not going to have a major impact. You're talking about such a minor number of people. We're talking, at Tottenham, for example, we're talking, 2% of capacity. Yep. Everybody else still needs to see the game. So in terms of the kickoff slots, I think they'll still be spread. I think that's the intention. I think it's in the broadcasters and the Premier League's interest to do that. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea, as I suggested previously on one of these podcasts, to have 2 games at 12:30 on a Saturday or 2 games at 2 p.m. on a Sunday, for example, and give people a choice rather than the spreading of all 10, if that helps with fixture schedules, etc. But I don't think there's going to be a major impact in terms of what happens next.
Let's leave the last question of the show to our friend Benny Blanco. And I don't know if there's an answer to this, but I definitely know that you have to answer it, not me. Brilliant. What's the best way to protect a decent rank? You've got a decent rank and mine's not. So that's why I say you've got to answer it at this stage of the season. At this stage of the season, what's the best way to protect a decent rank? Well, firstly, don't forget to set your captains and log in and all the rest of that kind of regular stuff, because a large proportion of people will stop doing that and also run out of transfers. So that's going to help straight away. Just do the basics.
The number one thing to protect rank will be to cover on the best captaincies.
On ownership.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the best captaincy with taking in ownership in mind, because you will potentially get days where the best captain's not necessarily the most captained.
Yes, so you captain the highest owned. I mean, if you take this week, for example, take Saturday.
Yeah, Kevin De Bruyne, you'd assume is the highest owned.
To be honest, it probably is. Yes, and if all you're looking
36%.
The question I'd throw back at Benny is, why are you only looking to protect rank? Now it could be, and I do know that Benny's flying high at the moment. He's certainly inside the top 1,000. Stop looking to protect, mate. Start looking to attack, because there are people in front of you that are spunking their transfers, and you're going to catch them. Yeah. Don't go into defensive mode just because the rank is good. Go into attack mode. But yes, generally speaking, at Benny's position, covering the best captaincies or most owned player is not a bad idea. But then take Monday night. Who's a better captaincy if you could have both Vardy or Grealish?
Vardy.
Well, Jack Grealish should probably be the one that's captained the most. So what do you want to do? There will be instances like this where it then splits in terms of what you want to do. I would look at that and go, the potential differential of what Jamie Vardy could be on that Monday night against his ownership, which I don't know if you want to have a look at what it is, Suj, but it's probably shit at the moment, would be really, really interesting, rather than just going for Jack Grealish, who's in Jack Grealish in a huge number of teams. I don't know if he's the most owned player, but he's probably very, very close at the moment. Jack Grealish is about 40%, I believe.
Jack Grealish is 42.25% of teams. Jamie Vardy is 23.2.
There you go. Now, those who've got both, I would think, are probably going to pull the trigger on Vardy. Then you've probably got quite an equal split. But I don't think that's one we should look at it and go, well, Grealish's ownership is higher, I'm going to captain Grealish. You should go with a player that you think is going to go and tear it up. And I know that Villa playing West Ham, is far more likely that Vardy will go bigger against Fulham. And therefore, he's the best choice on Monday if you can get there and do that. It's not a must-do. Like I said, I might not be able to get there myself. And Grealish is suitable. But if you've got the direct choice, I wouldn't say pick Grealish because his ownership is higher. Go Jamie Vardy. Go for the upside. Go and attack people.
Indeed. There we go. And with that advice, we will wrap up this episode of Planet Sky FF. Do stay tuned wherever you're listening to the podcast by hitting the subscribe button, notification bells, etc. Because one thing is for sure, by this time next week, we will have at least some more fixture news and maybe quite a lot more fixture news. So it'll be essential listening. Most importantly, don't forget, log in, set and forget your captains before the game week starts, just in case. And stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Cue music, please, Manshard.